Welcome to Grow Your Wealth, the podcast where scaling a successful brand and your wellness go hand in hand. I'm Rena Goodwin, founder and CEO of Factor PR, a top beauty, health, and wellness PR studio, and I'm here to help you work smarter, not harder. Each week, we'll talk branding, marketing, and business growth alongside real, practical insights from trailblazers who are building businesses without the burnout. If you're ready to grow your brand, protect your energy, and design a life you love, you are in the right place. Let's grow. Hey everyone, welcome back to Grow Your Wealth. I'm Rena Goodwin. There's something that I see over and over again with businesses. And if I'm being honest, it's something that I've had to check myself on too, because as a business owner, I know so many of us, we are very, very fixated on growth. Of course, we want more leads. I want more social followers. We're looking at more social traffic, visibility, press, you name it. We pour all this time and energy and money, quite frankly, into getting in front of new people because that is what so many people, especially in the online space, have taught us is what matters the most in business. And I want to clarify that these things are absolutely important. I posted recently on my Instagram that I have a scorecard for myself every single week. And one of the things that I score myself and my business on is on the number of new leads, the number of sales calls that I do, the number of proposals that I send out, and the number of closed deals that I do too. These are very, very important numbers because we do need a steady flow of new opportunities. What do they say? If you're not growing, you're dying. And we don't want that to happen. I would never argue against getting in more leads and closing more deals and so forth. But what people are not talking about as much, at least with not the same level of urgency and measurement, is what happens after someone actually says yes to working with you. Because if you're consistently bringing people in only to lose them shortly after, then all of that effort starts to work against you instead of for you. And at that point, you don't really have a growth strategy. You have a retention problem. And retention, in my opinion and in my experience, should be without a doubt the number one KPI in just about any business because it is the number that determines whether your growth is scalable and actually compounds or constantly resets back to zero or close to it. There's a stat that I recently came in contact with, and it's one of those numbers that once you really understand it, changes how you think about your business. It can cost anywhere from 5 to 7 times more to acquire a new customer than it does to retain an existing one. And when you really sit with that figure, it forces you to honestly rethink where your time and attention and your money are going. Because suddenly, when you look at your marketing budget and your ads and your content strategy, all of it becomes arguably a little bit of a risk if you're not keeping the people that you're already working so hard to bringing in, because your cost to acquire that customer is higher than it honestly needs to be. And as a business owner, particularly those CEOs out there, we are absolutely looking for the cost to acquire a customer to go down and the lifetime value of that customer to go up. How does that happen? With retention. And I think part of the issue that some of us misunderstand or even underestimate is just how expensive it can be to bring in a client in the first place. In my own business, my cost to acquire a customer is around $3,500. Now, my lifetime value of a customer is more than 10 times that. So it's pretty good math in that case. But for some businesses, those numbers can be a lot closer together, particularly those kinds of businesses that sell products or kind of one-off, non-subscription, non-retention type services or products too. So let's talk about some of those costs to acquire a new customer. First and foremost, obviously, marketing costs. So That includes running in ads, investing in PR, even influencers, creating content, showing up consistently on social media. None of that is free. Your time costs money as well, too, if you're the one in charge of this. Even if you're not spending heavily in dollars, that energy is something that you or your team is spending on instead of something else, right? Then there's the opportunity cost. That's every hour you spend chasing and pursuing new business is an hour that you're not spend deepening relationships or even working on your current clients. That can include improving delivery or, building new products that you can sell and so forth. And then there's the sales process itself, which can be longer and more involved than people want to admit, especially if it's a higher ticket service. So thinking about all the emails, the calls, the follow-ups, the proposals, the time spent nurturing someone from just curious to ready to commit. This is one of the reasons why I love PR in particular, because PR brings trust to the table. It brings validation that can actually ensure that your sales process shortens, right? So that time to conversion is less because there's less independent validation that the consumer needs to make when they see that other people are saying great things about you, particularly publicly in things like testimonials, reviews, but then also in the media and on social media too. So sometimes that process can take weeks, which is not great for cash flow. And sometimes they take less. But that being said, when a customer or client finally does say yes, the sale takes place, you're not done. You're just getting started with that client or customer because now you're onboarding them. You're learning their business. You're understanding their goals, building trust together, right? And doing all of this upfront work that comes with a brand new relationships. In my business, the most expensive month of working with a client in terms of the cost to my business undoubtedly is the first month. We track our time here at Factor PR, and usually the first month, even creeping into the second month, and sometimes the third month too, we're spending a lot more time on that client because of all of the on-ramping activity. So it's a heavy lift, but compare that to an existing client because you've already done all that heavy lifting, right? And they already trust you. They understand how you work. They enjoy your results, right? They're getting to know, or you're already knowing their preferences, their goals, and their communication styles, and you move faster so you can go deeper. And this creates better results with less friction. And when you have better results for less friction, typically, like I see in my business, I'm creating better results for my clients with less friction and at a lower cost to me. So that's where the client now becomes profitable and really the engagement starts to expand. At this point too, this is when clients are most interested in being cross-sold or upsold as well. So I love what you're doing for us on PR. I know that you have social media services too. Could you tell me about that? So that's a very, very popular time, particularly at renewal time when I'm looking at retaining a client. Sometimes I sell them or upsell them on a product or service based on our engagement and that history that we have that can even help their brand go further. Or they come to us and say, I'm ready to renew. What else do you have? Right? That is just chef's kiss, as we say here at Factor PR. So even when retention isn't the priority, what you're really doing is choosing the most expensive and most exhausting path to growth if what you are solely focused on is just new clients, new leads, new offers, and so forth. And this is something that I have really, really leaned into over the past year. 2025, I will be 100% honest with you, without question, was one of the hardest years I've ever had in business, not just financially, but emotionally as well. And there were moments where it felt like we were just constantly changing, especially after a really rough 2024. 2024, we had our most abysmal client retention of all time here at Factor PR. And I'm going to talk more about this in a future episode about how we were able to shift from our worst year ever to our best year ever. And I cannot wait to get into all of that here in just a few episodes. But what I want to do is just paint this picture of us, meaning me, because I'm the primary salesperson at this time at my company, just constantly chasing and trying to replace the clients that we had lost, the clients we weren't getting, and honestly, just trying to get back to a healthy baseline instead of doubling down on just getting more leads or pushing harder on the marketing. What I ultimately decided to do, and I made this decision very consciously, was to shift my focus. So not as much marketing, but more care given to our existing clients. I started looking at these clients that we already had and asking a different question, which was not, how do we get more of these clients? Yes, again, that was important. But at this time, when it is critical in your business to not just thrive, but survive, my question became, how do we keep these clients happy? How do we make sure they feel supported? They feel seen, they feel taken care of. And of course, making sure that they're getting real value. How do we make working with us something that they don't just like want to walk away from after 3 or 6 months? And because of that shift going into 2026, my friends, we retained 100% of our clients. Every single one that was up for renewal in January signed on come January. And on top of that, we have been adding new clients regularly since then. Because what happens when you retain your clients is that they tell other friends, family, businesses, brands about you. So that's like kind of free marketing, right? They always say the best marketing is doing great work. It's because your clients will be your best advocates. So keep that in mind as well, too. And instead of starting each month from scratch, trying to rebuild what we had lost in 2024 and going into 25, now we're building on top of what we have already created that is sturdy. There's a foundation there, and that foundation changes how our entire business feels as well as operates because it is more stable. Our clients feel that too. It's more predictable, and it allows you to grow in a way that actually feels sustainable instead of reactive. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, all right, I get it. And I would like to improve my client retention, I want to share some ideas on how to do that. In fact, I have 5 things that have made a very meaningful difference for us here at Factor PR. And it's not as like a rigid checklist, but these can be used as principles that you can start to integrate into how you run your business today. All right, let's get into it. Number 1, under promise and over deliver. This sounds simple, and I'm sure you've heard it before, but it requires a level of discipline that a lot of businesses don't always have, or at least have consistently, especially when they're eager to close new deals. Because there's this natural tendency to sell the biggest, most exciting version of what's possible because you want someone to feel confident saying yes. But when their expectations are set too high or too vaguely because you've said, yeah, sure, we could do all of that, even good results can feel disappointing. So what we focused on instead is setting clear, grounded expectations up front, making sure that our clients understands what our process looks like, what the timeline realistically is, and what success actually means in context, right? Then when you exceed those expectations, even slightly, it lands in a completely different way. Trust me, it helps build trust. It reinforces credibility, and it creates a sense of momentum that really keeps people engaged. Number 2, build thoughtfulness into the client experiences. I was this person once upon a time. I would treat the moment when someone signs a transaction almost as just that, right? Like, we've closed a deal. Yay, let's get to work. But in reality, this was a really big deal for not just our business, of course, but for our clients too. It's the turning point in your relationship together. Someone just chose you over every other option in most cases. And that decision carries emotion. It carries a lot of trust that had to go into that. And listen, uncertainty, right? They've handed over their money, they've signed over an agreement, and you haven't done anything for them yet. So instead of immediately moving into the logistics and onboarding, think about how you can make that moment feel really celebratory and good for the client. So for us, that might mean like a handwritten note. We send curated welcome gifts or something small but meaningful that reflects who we are as a brand. This is part of our culture here at Factor PR. This doesn't have to be something extravagant, but it should be something that feels very, very considered. I am a big believer that those early touch points really set the tone for everything that follows. And they oftentimes become the moment that people remember when they think about your experience with you. We send, in particular, we put together these really, really cute mailer boxes, like PR boxes for our clients that really like celebrates them. It's all about their glow up, right? This wasn't just an investment. They're giving us money. We are actually showing them what success looks like, right? Like your big glow up, your time in the spotlight, and everything in this box helps support that messaging as well too. And our clients have told us they absolutely love getting these boxes.
Hi friends, I want to tell you about our new and improved authority accelerator from Factor PR called RealFluence. RealFluence is the only membership that helps beauty and wellness founders grow their reputation and authority to attract new customers without endless discounting, advertising, or going viral. Inside, you'll learn how to get recognized for your product or your expertise, partner with other founders, and become the name people trust and talk about, all with the guidance and community to support you every step of the way. Remember, you can't buy authority. You have to earn it. And RealFluence is here to help. Visit therealfluence.com to get started.
Number 3, be good to work with, not just good at what you do. I know this sounds obvious, but somebody could have great results, and if they really suck to work with, that kind of sucks too. We've all been there, right? I think this is one of those missing retention drivers that people often overlook because they assume that the results are the only thing that matters. But especially if you're in a service-based industry, results matter, of course, but the experience of getting those results matter just as much. For our clients, what they're looking for is they want to know that we're responsive. They don't want to chase us, right? They want to know that we're proactive, that we're organized, that we're on top of it. If it starts to look like we are scattered, that's going to be a poor reflection in our work, and they're going to lose trust in us too. They want clear communication. They don't want to be confused about what's happening and why. And, something that I have not seen, thank goodness, in my business, because I think we do and always have taken such great care of taking care of our clients, is that, I've heard that sometimes clients don't leave because the work is bad. They leave because the process felt frustrating for them, or that the results were inconsistent, the team didn't care, and so forth. So when you make the experience very smooth, very thoughtful, easy to navigate, you're removing friction, and that alone can dramatically increase retention. Number 4, create consistent visibility into your progress. Again, big one for service-based businesses as well. One of the fastest ways to lose a client is to let them wonder what the heck is going on. In my line of work, particularly PR, which is very behind the scenes, like our clients, they're not on the email chains with journalists or influencers. We are updating them at least every week, every Friday. In fact, even when you're doing great work behind the scenes, if your client can't see that momentum, they can't see it, they can't understand it, or they can't connect it to their goals, it might start to feel like nothing is happening. So we have put a very strong emphasis on making our work visible. In addition to weekly status reports, we're having regular communication with our clients, clear updates with them. We're consistently tying back what we're doing to the bigger strategy. Not just like, here's what we did, but here's what we did, here's why it matters, and here is what is coming next. Because when clients feel informed and included, I have seen a shift, right? Their confidence in the process grows, and that confidence is what keeps them invested, especially if, again, you're in a business where, your results are not overnight. So this can work for a PR agency. It can work for, a personal trainer that's working with people, right? We're doing that measuring every time your client comes in. How is everything looking? We're showing that progress. We're making tweaks around the way. We're also being very, very communicative in terms of what that progress means to achieving their larger outcome down the line too. Number 5, treat your clients like partners, not transactions. You're starting to see a theme here, right? Obviously, doing great work will keep your clients happy, but treating them like they're the only client that you have is probably one of the most important pieces of advice that I can share with you in my experience, and that I've seen work in countless other businesses as well. At Factor PR, we do not just look at our clients as accounts to manage. We look at them as partners we are building with. And that means that that we're thinking proactively with them. We're bringing opportunities to them, sometimes like not even technically in the scope of work, but we saw something or something crossed our desk that would be perfect for that client. And we are bringing those ideas to the table too, because we care about their business beyond the scope of just our immediate deliverables. I oftentimes will think about, if a client has an opportunity that crosses their desk, or they are thinking thoughtfully about a next stage in their business and they want us to examine that together and give our recommendation, I will give it, and I encourage my team to give it based on what we would do if it was our business, right? Like, we are showing up as partners, not as vendors. When someone feels like you are genuinely invested in their success, not just fulfilling a contract, it changes the dynamic completely. I've seen our clients become more open. They've told us that they believe that we are partners in their growth, not just their PR agency, basically. We're a lot more collaborative, and they have just been less likely to leave because they're getting value beyond just a KPI, because they don't feel like they're just buying a service anymore. They feel like that they're in a relationship that is actually helping them grow, not just their business grow. All right, my friends, that is just 5 of, I'm sure, many, many more ways that I could go on and on about what has really helped here at Factor PR retain our clients. I got a lot of questions when I was on LinkedIn sharing at the start of the year about just like what incredible milestone that it was to have something as crazy as 100% retention. And I just wanted to really deep dive into that based on some of the questions that I've received. So I hope that this was helpful. And I hope that if you take anything from this episode, let it be this: growth is exciting. I get it. It will always be a focus. But if you want to create that flywheel in your business where growth is happening even when you're not selling, retention is what makes that growth meaningful, sustainable, and much more scalable over time. Growth with retention increases your profitability. It creates stability and sturdiness, and it's what allows you to build a business that constantly doesn't feel like it's starting over again every month or every quarter. So before you push harder on marketing or start chasing more leads, take a step back and look at what you already have. Okay. I look at my clients every week. I'm so grateful to them for trusting us, and I don't want to lose them. I don't want to disappoint them. And I think taking that care and making it more tangible to the client really, really goes a long way. So I hope that this episode has been helpful in sharing, again, like what's possible in your business. And I know Not a lot of people are talking about less marketing, more retention. And I have seen it completely transform my business, especially in a short amount of time. And it really, really is a win-win. It's a win for my clients, a win for my team, and a win for my business as well too. So I hope that's helpful. And again, more to come in a future episode. If you thought that this episode was helpful or inspiring, I would really appreciate it if you shared it with a friend or a business bestie. As always, you can follow us at Grow Your Wealth Podcast on Instagram, growyourwealthpodcast.com too. Thank you so much for tuning in, my friends, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode deposited some useful advice and insights to help you grow your wealth. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future conversations. You can find more resources, episode details, and updates at growyourwealthpodcast.com. And let's keep the conversation going on Instagram. Follow me at Grow Your Wealth Podcast. I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, or takeaway from today's show. Until next time, remember, burnout is optional. Take care, and I'll see you next week.